Hello everyone, welcome to a Khazrak first 10 turns legendary guide. So that's it, we're gonna pick up on Khazrak the One Eye. And he has some interesting faction effects and lord effects. For the main purpose, let's say, of what we're going to learn here today, or hopefully that you're going to learn here today, that ambush success chance of plus 15% to all armies is really good, really useful for this run with Khazrak, and we're going to try to abuse that. Of course, that Vanguard deployment is also nice, but that's where we're going to go. We're going to go on legendary, very hard, AI strength and threat, as well as minor faction potential. A little bit of a disclaimer on that, it's that it causes some variation, and I'll speak about that variation. We're also going to get all the stats modifiers for the AI, but of course this should be a guide that is not just for legendary, for any difficulty level. You'll just have an easier time on other difficulty levels. First, a disclaimer, there's lots of variation, as I mentioned, for this campaign, and I'll show you what happens like 99% of the time, and the variations and examples on the late part of this video. So this is a starting army to late game progression example. So the initial units that you get, and then you can screenshot this or ask me for it on Discord. And basically this is the sort of idea, which buildings are going to get, so that you get the final army, which is basically a very low tier army. It's only tier 3 buildings that are required, and only 3 buildings really, for only if you need a caster. It uses 18 red line skills, so if you need to buff every single unit, and then most units have Vanguard deployment, and all of them are buffed by specific Khazrak and Wargore skills, and of course to combine with the synergy of the ambush style, it's great in ambushes. So let's give it a go. You start with a hero, in this case a Brave Shaman of Death. Be sure to check his trait. By the way, you can always restart. There's one that gives you a potion of toughness idea, so that can be good as well. But Strider is decent enough, so let's go for it. It's not essential for the playthrough or for the guide, so we're gonna just merge and attack the first army. One tip that you can have is that you can have a Thirk victory here if you want to resolve it, but you notice that it's not an ambush. So let's just cancel it out, because the Beastmen have a way of actually ambushing on the attack, which is exactly what you want. And like I showed you here, you can actually try this out at least 2 times before you run out of movement, so it's a good way. Now, I tried to actually channel magic and failed. So I have my units in group 1 for the Lord, group 2 for the caster, 3 for the chariots and monitors, so basically the flanking units. 4 is also always missile infantry, and 5 is always front line. In this case, I'll split the front line because I want them to attack from the other side, just the spears. And this is how I recommend, because there's some way watchers there who will be attacked by the minotaurs, but you want some spears there to prevent them from running to the boots, okay? And then your Lord is just gonna catch the enemy Lord, and you're just gonna cast Spirit Leech on him once you have the necessary. Let's lock the group so that you can attack. I'm gonna start the battle, and immediately with the group selected, just click. If you see that they haven't attacked the right target, you just tell them manually, but at least they start moving. Focus on getting those way watchers away. The ranged units are the last thing that I will move. You don't need that much speed as I showed there, really. Just ensure that you get your monitors and your infantry in the thick of the action. Overall, 1 unit of way watchers is already gone. The enemy Lord is being chased away. And all that I'm keeping up with here is realizing, oh, I don't really need my chariots to keep up with the way watchers, so I can just go back with them. And if you see any flags leaving, you can just charge with the minotaurs somewhere else. Just let Khazrak pursue the enemy Lord. It's totally fine. You can achieve army losses very quickly without suffering too many losses here against this whole army. Don't even need any damage on the Lord, actually. Overall, it's a very easy battle to begin, but it also illustrates the importance of ambush battles for the Beastmen to charge in. Don't be afraid of charging in with the infantry units. They're really good, especially early game, against what the enemies nearby you can field. So let's end up the battle. Always chase after the battle. By the way, I'm not going to show you the chase of the battle, but always give it a chase, and always against the most important units, let's say. So after the battle, it is important that you replenish your units. So army replenishment is pretty much the one that I'll always be taking, because you're going to have a lot of battles and you really need, the other two options are really not that important. You really need to get that army replenishment going. Over here, I'm going to tell you to only recruit one Unga Spearman. Why one? This is so that the enemy, which you're going to attack in the next turn, let's build the dread here, the building for the dread here. That's so that you can get a nice battle in a moment. I'll explain later on. So first here we're going to get Presence of More Sleep, so that you can go for the red line skills, and we're going to get Spirit Leech to open up the other spells. As I was saying, on the next turn we're going to siege the Lordaeron Forest, but we're not going to attack. We're actually going to wait for them to attack at the end of their turn, and that can only be achieved if you only recruited one unit. That's right, if you recruit 2 units, it doesn't work. They'll stay under siege. If you recruit any other unit, it doesn't work. What you want is that Unga Spearman herd with shields. It gives you a close defeat here. That is actually a difficult battle. I tried it and I think I can do it, but not without some losses, by the way. Let me just show you something here. So the AI stats modifier, let's apply it, does not change the battle results for auto resolve. The only thing that actually changes it's the battle difficulty. So if you put it on easy, of course, it will give you a Pyrrhic victory. So this is what I'm mentioning, a little bit of the variation. You can even auto-resolve if you're not a fan of it, if you play on normal or easy difficulty. But for the purposes of this campaign, of course, we're going to go on legendary very hard. And with that in mind, we're going to encircle them, and they are going to attack us in the end of the turn. Why did I mention that with the difficulty? It may not happen if you are on easy, for instance, but if you are on easy, the battle of the siege should be easier as well. Now, they are actually selling out, like I mentioned, and let's fight the battle. This shows as a valiant defeat, but it's certainly not. It's more like a close victory here. So let's fight it out. Once more, I was unlucky with the channeling magic, actually, but that's fine. So here's a small trick when you select the units. You see that I'm selecting in a different order. That is to have a shielded unit and then an unshielded unit kind of split up. And now you're going to see that I'm going to select every single unit that doesn't have shields, pull them back, and you see that the shielded units are kind of like staggered. And that's the idea. Do I put Khazrak there? Because I have Khazrak there, maybe I need the missile infantry here. It may seem like it's not important, but that missile infantry is quite important for this battle, because it's the one that's going to be hitting the Way Watchers. Now, just the flank prepared there. Unfortunately, the Minotaurs do not have Vanguard deployment. That will also be quite overpowered. Let's lock the infantry and immediately tell them to attack. There's no problem whatsoever. These units are not flimsy, especially with the buffs that you have already given them. Khazrak took some shots, which is actually nice. It's actually good that he's taking in some shots. And now just do a little bit of targeting. You don't have to do too much, you know, over here. You can just let them go if you don't have the micro. It's perfectly fine. They'll choose good targets, okay? Just make sure that you hit with an initial command someone in the front, in the middle of the enemy, okay? Because if you hit on the front, then on the one of the edges, it doesn't work like that. Khazrak can go into melee, no problem whatsoever. The enemy, the hero can also go into melee, just as long as you don't put them against the war dancers, it's fine. And like I said, the missile infantry goes against the war dancers. Your Minotaurs and your chariots should be your main focus on this battle. Everything else, as soon as they are engaged, all that you're going to see me select is likely the Minotaurs or the chariot units for the most part. Just keep them moving, keep them going after any targets that you see, like with a 5th of leadership or a 5th of health or anything like that, or a 1/3 of it, you know, that should be fine. Overall, you can see that the war dancers are severely being handicapped by both the poison and the fact that they are under ranged attack. Everything is kind of routing. If you see units routing near your Minotaurs or near your chariots, just tell them to attack something else, you know, just push them away. That should be fine, and tell them to attack someone else. Like overall here, I'm sensing I can give a few shots to those Glade Guards and force them away. Now, Glade Guards or Way Watchers, always focus on the Way Watchers if you can. So even though they have the same icon, just make sure that you spot for that. Right now we're going for army losses. So I just want to pursue a little bit. Glade Guards, Way Watchers, let's go. See? Just check for it. And if not mistaken, as soon as the war dancers are fleeing, everyone else flees, and it's the army losses. There we go. We did lose a little bit. I believe this is about the worst outcome that I've had. It's because I'm recording, of course. It's always against me. But it works. Going on this front line, you kind of have to rush because the enemy has those missile units, and starting with the vanguard and going just in, you saw how little they used the advantage of those ranged firepower. I won't focus too much on the items because that's a huge variety. There's a huge variety of what you're gonna get, and it can change drastically. So for now, just army replenishment like I mentioned, and now you captured the settlement. Let's auto-resolve this one. It's kind of very pointless to do. And important here is to raise the hearthstone. So, you secured it on turn 3. Congratulations, you can do it in turn 2 or even 1, but I disadvise against that unless you really know what you're doing. And it will require a lot of micro that I don't really think that you should have. So, as you can see, we lose nothing in terms of the units that we need to recruit, because we can recruit them now. Now let's go to Gargantuan Hooves and a little bit of Fury of the Herd, just so that next time we can get some replenishment on that army. And over here I want to go for Soul Blight, which is a nice spell. It's a very AoE, it helps in every single aspect, but don't neglect the aspect of the Dread Knight and the Doom and Darkness. They're very good, especially because of the leadership. The enemies that you have low leadership early on, so that's good. Let's go for life leeching here as well, which is important. And Khazrak, the one it's doing just fine. Let me just give that fire resistance and spell resistance to someone. Oh, I can give it to Khazrak actually. So whatever items you get, just make sure that they are assigned to the best outcome, and that's it. Okay, I actually got, in my first playthrough, I got a Banner of Swiftness, which is quite tremendous, and I had to avoid that one. So in terms of the Hearthstones here, of course they all provide their differences, but I believe the one that gives casualty replenishment, which is such a focus on this game, is the best. So that's precisely what we're going to go for. Now, it is important on this end turn that you realize that there's really nothing else to do. The Beastmen are not exactly a faction that trades anything, so let's go and end the turn. Ah, a nice coffee. I suppose that you can get a coffee break as well while you're watching this. So, move a little bit and then move in well-hidden encampment, which is basically your ambush success. Your ambush stance, and go over there on the trees, precisely that spot. I cannot emphasize how it has to be on those trees, because otherwise it doesn't work. But if you do that, it works 99% of the time. Which is, there's no Empire army in range, right? There's Boris, but nothing from Reichland. But you're about to be attacked by one. Let me show you. And of course, because we're ambushing in the right place, Karl Franz rushes towards you. It's a Pyrrhic victory if you're going out to resolve, but if you fight it, it's actually quite easy. I'll show you a little bit. It depends a little bit on what ambush map you have. I've gotten a few different ones, but this map is actually quite cool. Let's go and fight the battle. I'll show you the example. Everything so far is almost scripted. You can do this every single campaign, okay? this until this point you can do this every single campaign, so I'll advise you to do exactly as I'm doing, as it helps. So we want the Minotaurs there and the chariots here. Oh, there we go. Chariots over there, they'll attack the mortars. The Minotaurs will attack the Reichsguard and the handgunners. And we want the infantry on the higher ground. There's two targets for your archer units, the Karaburg swords and the halberdiers. So I don't need them too far away. I'll need them to attack the halberdiers and to attack the Karaburg greatswords. Yes, greatswords have a lot of armor, but you have poison and they don't have shields, so you are going to do damage against them. Now pay attention how I'm actually putting up the units here, because it's important. The main important one is that you get the Bestigors up to the front so that they can fight Karl Franz. I'm going to lock the group and set them to attack. So group 5 attack in the middle of those swordsmen, and it should allow them to attack each their own target. So let's start the battle. Group 5 attacks, and you can see that they're all attacking. And then just gobble up the Minotaurs, gobble up the chariots, and tell them to attack their targets. Now the ranged units. Always like this. Always the front line first, and the fast units second, and then the ranged units. Okay? I'm going to put them in guard mode, just so that I don't have any troubles. If the Reichsguards try to go up the hill, it's kind of good for you, because they will have been attacked. And an alternative, if you find that this happens to you, is that you just prepare this spell. Now, prepare the spell. It's better to use them on a Reichsguard, and suddenly they're doing nothing against your Minotaurs and your hero. And even if they would hit the missile raiders, it wouldn't happen too much. That was actually the first time that they attacked me. So like I say, I have the luck of whenever I'm recording, things don't go according to plan. But yeah, that's precisely perhaps because I've done this battle so many times that I keep changing it up a little bit, and then the AI responds differently. But it's actually good that it happened. Don't worry too much about spears or anything fighting archers. They'll survive for quite a while. And you can see that already Karl Franz is dying. Why? Because you set him up with your Bestigors, which are armor piercing, and they hit like a truck. And they can defeat Karl Franz in single combat, actually. So, of course, Khazrak is there to gloat. Now, your missile troops and your chariots and Minotaurs are pretty much what you select. I haven't selected a single infantry unit ever since the beginning. All that I do is just reroute the archers, reroute the mobility units, so that you keep chasing anything that doesn't have, and this is the focus, anything that really doesn't have a lot of damage on, because you want to go for army losses. Over there's a big clump up of units that we're just going to attack with our Minotaurs. Be careful of enemy missile fire. You can see that some handgunners there and some archers are focusing down my Minotaurs. So, like I said, anything that is willing to fight, just tell your archers to fire. They should do the damage. And right now, because of all those actions, there's like one unit trying to survive the attack. Everything else is just wanting to flee. And because you've split up the damage, they suddenly want to rout. So, very important in these battles. Split up a little bit of the damage, because that helps you out to get the army losses. Now, why is the battle not over yet? Because Karaburg greatswords have unbreakable. So that's why you also focus them down, because otherwise you're going to have the Karaburg greatswords... difficult to pronounce. You're going to have them being an issue against the army losses. So focus them down a little bit. You notice that I sent like 2 units against them. I didn't send the Bestigors against them, you know, that sort of idea. As always, pursuing the light part of the battle so that your units get more experience. I have a video on that if you want to check. And over here, it's always army replenishment. Almost always army replenishment. You're going to fight a lot of battles. Now, there's a quest battle. I do not recommend that you take it already. It's a difficult quest battle to do, and you kind of have a lot of work in the beginning. Let's talk research. You have World Bane, or Uncloven Hoof and Twisted Claw, which gives you the speed. This one gives the aura leadership. Although good, because you have low leadership, it's kind of fine in the beginning. You're not fighting enemies that have a lot of benefits for that. So just getting the weapon strength versus humans is really good. Let's go with some skills. Now, actually before that, there's a lot of variation on this campaign. So this is a nice initial army. You got your 20 stack on turn 5. That's good. And we're going to be able to do a lot of things with just this army. Notice that I'm clicking where it has once more the ambush success chance of 100%. Notice the location where I sent my unit. Okay, my lord. Give him some replenishment and complete the red line skill. Let me focus it down a little bit. That gives leadership and melee defense. That's very good, so that your units will respond much better in battle. So right now you have the toughest infantry around this area. Let's get the 2 spells that we're missing from the first part. We just want options, and you'll see in the next few battles how those options work really, really well. Now, we can try to get this recruitment going, but one of 2 things can happen. Number 1, the ambush can be successful, so we're not going to build it. But still, if it isn't, we already upgraded. Now, up until this point in time, that's where I want you to follow strictly. So turn 5, up until this point in time, everything that I've done, I would want you to follow strictly. But now let's talk about variation. Depending on the minor factions that become good, the greenskins are actually going to be the ones dealing with Weismund. Typically what would happen here is that Middenheim defeated them and are defending like this. And my ambush would be against Boris, okay? But at this moment, they haven't done this. Another possibility is that you actually see an army from Nordland coming over, because they will have the minor faction benefits. Another possibility is that Festus comes over really fast. And even another possibility is that you see a very quick siege of Black Pit in a few turns from Marienburg. But overall, I want you to focus on the action around Weismund and Middenheim. That's where you're going to get most of the destruction necessary for your ritual, okay? Middenheim and Weismund, that's all that you actually need to get that Lorn Forest ritual starting, okay? Now, it's difficult speaking about a lot of variations. So this is the ambush that happened because Boris was trying to help out against the greenskins that he's facing, and he falls into our ambush. The auto-resolve kills a few units, and although they're not really consequential, I would like to fight this one. Okay? Now, overall, the worst units here that he has or the best units that he has are the Pistoliers and the Free Company Militia. You gotta be careful with those. They can kill your hounds, for instance, or some of the spears if you're not familiar on how to deal with them, or if he doesn't suicide them. Just note that he doesn't have a lot of shielded units, although he has a lot of infantry. He doesn't have a lot of shielded units, so your ranged power will be very effective. Boris does have a shield, so he's not really the best to focus down. And he's also having that replenishment. So for the most part, I just leave him alone. He doesn't cause a lot of damage yet because he doesn't have a lot of damage to do. Same ambush map, which is good for us. Already the same type of planning that I always do with number 3, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, you know. So it's always the same. I hope you've learned by now. The hounds will take care of the Pistoliers. My Minotaurs and Chariots will take care of the Free Company Militia. And I'm just going to put my hero here, Khazrak, to deal with Boris. My infantry is well spread out here with the Pestigor herds, the same idea as happened with Car Friends. Now that I see it, I could have just told you that to do... Instead of showing the battle, I could have just told you this. So my apologies, guys. It's going to be another battle. But yeah, just tell them to, in this case, there's no specific targets. So I'm just going to leave the archers and focus on the infantry and the mobility. Let's go. Yeah, as I'm signaling here, prepare just number 5, number 3 attack, and then combine everything. Okay? So as you can see there, didn't work really well, because when you're separated, they don't work really well. But overall, I got some archers done. That's nice. Let me use a very nice spell there, affecting plenty of enemy units. Notice that I haven't yet sent out Khazrak. There's no need. There's still no need, just focus here. Want to see a good usage of this aspect of the Dread Knight? Look at that. On those hounds that were about to go away, raise their leadership and get them to cause terror. And suddenly, the enemy is terrorized. And they can pursue. Knowing when to use a spell makes you really, really, really good at these sort of battles. Okay, guys? Now I'm sending in Khazrak versus Boris. I feel a little bit more confident. And I'm just going to use the leadership debuff here against these swordsmen so that they rout faster. Maybe I can get a mass rout going on that direction. Once you've seen that the pistoliers are kind of out of the action, just reroute your troops. Okay? Minotaurs and the chariot should always be moving. I believe that's one of my conclusions in the late part. So especially in the battles, always be moving these guys. Let him attack, charge, hit someone. Then they're going to go to the other side and hit someone else. Okay? You can see that I caused a mass rout there because of that bonus there. This guy is finished. Good. Send him against some flimsy archers. And we're going to have another leadership debuff there. Now it's all about controlling the battlefield. Are any stragglers here? Do I need to destroy Boris? He's taking a little bit of damage. Maybe I should tell the Minotaurs to attack him. So instead of checking what is the healthiest unit, I'm checking actually which one doesn't have, still has leadership. So that can cause a much faster army losses. Go for the leadership instead of the health, and you cause these victories much, much sooner, guys. I cannot emphasize that enough, okay? Especially with someone like Khazrak. Now, let's try to destroy as much as we can, pursue them so that we get a little bit more XP for our units. Like I said, I have a video explaining that if you want to check. But after pursuant, yes, we got 433 kills on the chariot. That's amazing, and lots of gold. So let's get army replenishment as always. Always army replenishment here. You don't have exactly a lot of usage to the gold, and you can be attacked at any point in time. As you can see, we have the variation where they actually attacked, the greenskins actually managed to destroy that. Typically on my on the playthroughs, like 2 or 3 playthroughs that I had, that didn't happen. So that's one of those minor factions that is actually getting a little bit more potential. Okay, well, at least it seems like it, because this typically doesn't happen. Midland survives and not the orcs. Now I didn't build it because of course I was left out of the encamped stance after that. Let's get more replenishment for him. So the first red line skill and then the replenishment skill, it's always very important. And the next step is going to try and lure the garrison out. There's an army here. Up until this point, things are kind of working about as scripted as you can say. Let's say 70% of the time this happens, where instead of Midland owning that place, the greenskins own it. That's the only difference. Typically it would be Midland, and when Boris comes back to his initial settlement, that's where you ambush him. But that ambush battle almost always happens, especially in that location where I put the Khazrak. So make sure that you check where you're ambushing, because I know the locations. I tried others. Doesn't work as well. Let's fight the siege. It's a very easy siege. Just put up the ladders and it's fine. If you're playing this after any siege rework that has no ladders, or if you have any mode for no ladders, you can still break the gates and do this battle pretty easily. You have the ranged power to do some damage to the enemies that are on the walls, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Too much of a problem. Sorry. Okay. So my Minotaurs and mobility is going to go on one of the gates. The infantry is just going to go on the walls with the ladders. Khazrak is going to attack the secondary gate, and of course the missiles will provide some support to attack whoever is in the walls. Select everything and tell them to all to move so that you can be moving everyone, and while they're moving you can actually issue the individual orders. See? So you don't lose that little bit of precious time that sometimes it's a volley of the enemy, you know. So he has like 2 units that are completely out of combat for whatever reason, including a crossbowman unit, which helps us tremendously. We are already at the walls without suffering anything, really. So that's great for us. One piece of advice: if you still have the ladders, just ensure that all of them are deployed instead of them going through their own ladders. So you can check the animation and see if they are positioning their own ladders, which is better for you, okay? So the more that you lock the ladders there, the better for you. Already everyone is attacking the gates, and all that I want is to perhaps reorient a little bit the missile units so that they can attack on a little bit of an angle, and it helps against to overcome the defenses that are sometimes found in the battlements, okay? If he opens the gate, don't be too afraid. Even if it is a halberd unit, you should be able, with some spells, to make them completely useless. Right now I want to ensure that whoever is attacking Khazrak doesn't have a lot of damage. So yeah, let's position them slightly a bit ahead. There we go. Gate is almost halfway down, that's good. And now you can just tell some of your units to attack. Now that they have the ladders, it's perfectly fine. Even the Ungor Raiders, they're quite good units, especially with the buffs that you've given them. They should be just fine. And now I get to watch. I believe those are halberds, or at least spearmen. So you gotta be careful there. I can reduce the leadership or do the leadership buff and cause some terror. I think so. Yep. Let's get the fear going. It immediately lowers the leadership a little bit. So if they happen to reduce it slightly more, that's always helpful overall in the long term. Now you guys are going to attack those units on their back. You're going to move. Keep going. I'm gonna go and attack that unit. Keep attacking those halberds. They're still suffering a little bit of damage from those units. A little bit of a pathfinding issue here. What would a siege be without some little pathfinding issues, right? We're about to destroy this gate, and we'll send the dogs to whoever they can. And we're just gonna position the Minotaurs and chariots where we can to envelop on the courtyard. Khazrak is doing just fine, and we can cast another Soul Blight so that these guys really don't fight enough. So overall, it's all pretty standard, I would say. No cheeses, by the way. I don't like to play too much with cheeses, so I'm not blobbing them up for the archers or anything like that. For the most part, I give them a chance. As soon as you can, push with Khazrak through that gate. I'm deciding maybe I'm going to use the Lure of Death there. It's not exactly the best spell, but I wanted something that could damage, you know? Even if just a little bit. My hounds have done the work. Let's go against that crossbowman. And at this point, all that I want is to get the army losses. And for that, all that I need is just to reduce the leadership here and there. And try to ensure that the enemy leadership... Okay, I'm going to reduce there. I'm glad that he wasn't in range, because that was a better target. Because the more that I attack these units, the better. And if there's only like 1 or 2 units without any damage, then he'll survive. As soon as every single unit is taken enough damage, the army losses will kick in. Okay? Doesn't matter if they would fight and get a better outcome. Let's do one last Soul Blight. Doesn't do any damage, but it will help decrease that leadership enough for the army losses to kick in. Very well. It doesn't reduce the leadership, but it reduces their fighting power, so they'll become... they'll go on the point where they are fighting worse. And when they're fighting worse, they get that the penalty for losing decisively. So we will now build up. One point that I would like to note is that I won't show that, but we'll move a little bit away into the woods again. Let's get the purple sun, and again we completed with the replenishment on Khazrak, so that is good. The first skills have been selected: Fury of the Herd and Feated Gallipot. Next we're going to go for Leader of the Raucous Host or the Beast Lord Lash, or for his specific ones. That's your choice. I like to go for the specific one, so that's what I'll show. And right now, the advice is very simple. Accumulate the 25 marks of ruination so that you can jump to the ruination level 2. And that way you can get the Hearthstone in Altdorf. Okay, so the second Hearthstone can actually be in Altdorf. In terms of using some Dread, you can use the Dread to purchase either a new Legendary Lord, which I typically find it a little bit cheesy to do this early on. It's fine. It's a good strategy if you'd like that, but I like to purchase the Hearthstone to level 2. Okay, I don't find it too cheesy. It's just a confederation mechanic, but it just speeds up things too much, and I like to struggle a little bit. But that's a personal idea of mine. By all means, accumulate 1,200 and get Thorax or any of the other lords. So now we're gonna attack Middenstag, and this is also what I want you to do, as in I want you to focus on destroying the Middenland faction, okay, as it will imply just one less enemy for you. Okay, Middenland, the Orcs, and Reichland should be the 3 initial enemies that you're trying to destroy, because overall they'll always become a pain for you to deal with if you leave them alive for too long. So up until this point you can kind of follow it. Even if you had different battles, so far you're gonna have about the same circumstances to fight. So once more, let's have a battle to fight. And I just want to show you how in open ground, instead of an ambush, you can deal with those pistoliers. Typically he'll move them forward, so that's not a problem. If you see that your front line cannot go through because of some obstacle, don't be afraid. Your units are sturdier, so just split them up. I guess this is a good example of a battle to do this, because your infantry is really good early game. Really good. Some people say, oh, Beastman infantry, they're not good. No. They're really great versus what they're fighting against. Really are. Especially here against the Empire, against Bretonia, against Greenskins. They'll do it. They'll do just fine. Okay? They'll do worse versus Greenskins, of course, because they have better infantry, but they will do just fine versus the Empire, especially with some debuffs that you can get. Now let's tell them to attack. Oh, I didn't lock. Don't worry. Just lock it. Don't get pressured. And the Pistoliers typically move in. They do not know that you have the archers there because they are hidden. That's why they move in. Okay, your archers have that stalk ability, so that's why he moves them in, and then he realizes or remembers, oh, that's where they are supposed to be. That's about how the AI works. It doesn't seem like it, but that's a clear signal that it doesn't know that your units are hidden. Okay, in case you wonder how it would respond like that. It doesn't see any missile troops. Of course, it's going to send them in. So Soul Blight this time because I want the general to be affected by it as well. It's helping out versus that unit. If anyone bypasses your front line, it's fine. Your raiders can deal with it, especially with the assistance of your caster. It's pretty fine. If you needs be, you can just reroute some of the Minotaurs or reroute your chariots against that, so don't worry. Remember that the mobility is where you're going to spend most of your time to get them running. Most of your time microing, okay, to get them working. Let's get some leadership here, and I want them to cause terror because there's several units here that can be terrified. There we go. That's at least 3-4 units that are now terrified. That's why it's so important. Come on, guys, use all spells. Use all the spells. It helps in these circumstances. You can create a terror bomb with any unit. Use that. So the Pistoliers are doing a great job against the Warhounds. That's because I left them 2-1. If I had 1 unit of dogs per pistolier, it wouldn't happen. Right now, what I want is for my units to start pursuing, and I'm just going to attack or use the leadership debuff on any unit that still has some leadership to try and again go for army losses. Always see, if you take a look around the map and you see that the white bars from them are almost gone, capitalize on that. Attack everyone, and suddenly you get the army losses. See? So, as always, pursue after the end of the battle, focus on the more important units to get a little bit more XP, and that's about it, okay? As you can see, my dogs and my chariots are tier 6 already. My Minotaurs are tier 6, so they're really good so far. That's good. Now, this is one of the few cases where I'm not going to raise in advance. I'm going to loot and raise. Why? Because even though I want the casualty replenishment rate, I also want a little bit more income. And at this point, I'm not under threat from Midland or any other army. So, yep, as you can see, there's nothing here. I'm actually even going to merge these units and get the unit, the ROR unit that we just got. So let me disband the spear and get another spear. But in this case, a much better one. So overall, that's how you evolve with Khazrak. Now, 2 choices here. You can go for Fueled by Blood and then Bloodlust, okay, to make him more powerful. Or you can go Man Bane, which also makes him powerful, and then Crown of Horns for the weapon strength to all army. I prefer that route. And then on rank 12, you already have the access to the secondary, to his specific line, so it feels good. Let's upgrade. First, the infantry. You can go for the secondary one. I like to go for the fast stuff, mobility, harpies, razorgar hoods, their armor piercing, you know. So I like to go for that, but it's really up to you. I just like, you know, using different units and compositions as you've known me. So this is turn 7. It is important that you cross the line there. This settlement that we just captured, Midden Stack, is not a part for the ritual. That's why I didn't provide any rituals, marks of ruination there. So, once the Dark Moon arrives, there's a dilemma to choose. And it's always a very good dilemma. Typically, 1/1 falls is the one that I choose, but in this case, Endless Hurt could be done. The cost of skill is not useful right now. What I would like to do is when 1 falls, there's also one that gives melee attack and weapon strength, which is at 1 that I get. Then we have the unusual location. So I got 1 unusual location here. Luckily, it doesn't really affect too much. Gives control, which is really not necessary, and Nurgle corruption. So I guess that's fine. If it was a very challenging one, it would be different. So, another note that I should add is how Altdorf pretty much sends you an army every 4 turns. Every 4 turns you should count on Karl Franz showing up at your door with another army. So you have to be prepared for that. I've showed you, the ambush happens on turn 4 from Karl Franz, and then it's turn 8 now, and he's very close again with another army. So let's prepare for that. Let's get Crown of Horns. Good. So all my army now has a lot more weapon strength. And as always, just make sure that you are in a position to defend yourself. Okay? I would say that at this moment, that army, you know, I can maybe attack the greenskins. But that will be on me. So I'm going to attack the greenskins. I wouldn't say this is the best way, but just know that Karl Franz has sent 1 army, okay? He's likely to send yet another one. That army over there that is close to Middenheim is kind of depleted, so I'm going to take the opportunity to attack the greenskins. This is a bit on me, okay, guys? I would advise, though, for you to try and get the Marks of Ruination von Weismund, regardless of who is controlling it. I was actually expecting for Karl Franz to dominate this area so that I could avoid having a war against the Greenskins, but it seems that their faction potential helped them out tremendously early on. So, it's still a nice example of a battle, even though it's not going according to my initial 5 playthroughs, it's still fine. Some variation is likely to happen, and I'm actually glad. I'll explain the other variations in a little bit more detail in the end of this. So let's just select with some spears at the flanks. Okay, as you can see, spears at the flank. Okay, let's just spread them out a little bit. Doesn't matter really how you do it, just make sure that they are spread out a little bit. Reason for this is that you want to avoid any spells, you want to avoid any blobbing really versus the enemy missiles, so that they'll attack only one unit, and preferably they'll attack the units that have the shields before. Okay, in this case I really wanted the spears ahead to dominate any units that will come over. These guys will just reinforce. And these guys, I'm checking in, so there's some goblin archers there. There's a good target. So the orc arrow boys are there. There would be a better target, but I don't have as much mobility on this side. So it's going to have to be on that other side. Okay? This is how you choose. Mobility, you need places to move. You need area to move. So always select the better area for them, regardless of the targets. Okay? We can focus on the orcs in another way. In this case, the minotaurs will be there. So let's just move in first. In this case, there's no artillery. There's nothing that can cause damage from afar. So I'll just position before. Okay? We can actually hit spacebar and see if we are going to be close to their missile range, and it doesn't seem like it. So just move your troops towards the enemy. Slowly make them reposition, and if you see that there's an opening to deal with a specific unit, such as I'm seeing here to deal with those goblin wolf riders, it's time to send them in. And right now I just want to focus on the orc big guns and the squig herds with my missile troops. Let's tell my infantry to attack. Okay, tell my minotaurs to engage those orc boys. Not the big guns, by the way. That's the unit that you should debuff. Okay. And let's attack the squig herds. No, the orc big guns. They don't have a lot of missile resistance, so that's why. Let's send these guys across there. So the big guns are anti-large, so they are not going to be able to deal a lot of damage there, because they don't have the mobility. And Khazrak and your hero are great to actually ensure that you cover any bases. So like Khazrak is going over there. The unit of wolf riders seems to have gone. That's great. And now he can go against those goblin archers. Even though he gets a wog right now, it's kind of late. Many of his units are already fleeing or wavering, so that's good. Let's get my minotaurs on the back of these orc big guns. I kind of stopped their charge. That was bad micro on my behalf. Always be careful of imperfect micro, like when you tell them to do an action and you really didn't need to. In this case, they were already charging, and I believe I stopped their charge. It's not consequential in this moment in time, but it could have been of consequence. Don't worry too much if you see anyone routing. It's kind of fine, actually. So let's get more leadership, or actually let's get these guys to route anything nearby. They're fast, they're gonna force some terror routes, and that's exactly what we want. There we go. We're almost at a point where there's army losses. There's two things covering that. The Lord hasn't taken any shots, and he actually has recovered with some troops here. So I'm attacking anyone that has recovered, and as soon as they're attacked, that should cause the army losses again. So overall, go for their army losses, go for the leadership, go for their will to fight and break it. Okay? That's how beastmen work. They charge in and they hope the enemy doesn't want to fight. There you go. Sometimes, and this is an effect, just clicking on a unit that you're going to attack causes the army losses, because the enemy knows, or the AI knows, that it's going to be attacked. So yeah. Very well. We are going to get raised in advance. It doesn't matter the income. It does matter that we get some replenishment. And we got some more marks of ruination, 18, so it means that we need 7 more. We can just fight probably that battle against the greenskin army, or a battle against the I'm not seeing any ambush success chance 100%, so it's going to have to be 75. He has an army there. Either he goes in and tries to attack me, or he goes against my horde. No, against Lorland Forest. Just get the specific line on Khazrak and go for the caster for the other spells, okay? And right now you have a decision. Either go for Razorgore Herd, or go for Tusco Chariots and Centigars with great weapons. I like the Harpies because of the flying, okay? So I like to go for that in Razorgore Herds, and only then I'll go for the Chariots later on. I like to go, you know, tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3. So what happened is that the Greenskins are actually sending an army over to Lorland Forest. I don't have anyone that can get there too fast, so it's going to have to be like this. And as I was saying, turn 9. Here's yet another army. 3 turns every 3 to 4 turns, depending on the difficulty. 3 turns, it's all it takes them to amass a full army, and there it is. So it's good that they're actually getting the places. Middenheim is getting Bifistus, it's fine. And this is not a real important army. As you've seen, we've destroyed the main initial army, so he doesn't have a lot of good stuff at this moment. I would upgrade that, but it would be all my money, and I want to see if they will just attack me, and that's what they are going to do. Very well. This is a very easy battle. I could even auto-resolve it, but for the sakes of this, I guess I can fight one more battle on this episode and showcase how to deal with these guys. Actually, I'm going to fail a little bit on this one because I'm going to misread. I'm going to show you the problem. Actually, I wanted to talk about this. The problem of going for army losses, it's very tricky sometimes to get the timing right, okay? It's very difficult to get that timing right. Now, the biggest problem here is actually the terrain. So we're gonna get just the Unga Spearman Raiders and the spears at the sides. Not group 1, group 3, group 1, group 2. So Khazrak over here. Group 2 is gonna go here. Come on, group 4 is gonna go here. You can stagger them if you wish. At this point, I didn't realize I would need too much. Honestly, I thought the battle would be much easier. I wanted to go on that flank, but I chosen this flank because of the mobility again, and I defend that is actually the best. My error is going to be with the Minotaurs and with a misread on how powerful the Hounds will be against a specific unit there. So he has a lot. As soon as I start, I realized that he's way too spread out. More than I was expecting. I'm sending 2 units against that Spider Rider, and that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, and that's my error there. So everyone else, I'm just sending in to attack. And I don't bother too much with my raiders. I just want to ensure that, for instance, that unit of big guns and those squig herds are caught. Khazrak is going to attack, and I'm just going to go keep moving on those units. So overall, this is a mistake. I should have sent the Minotaurs against that unit of spears. I didn't realize that it isn't goblins. It's actually the orc boys, and that's the problem, because those are a little bit heavier. Don't worry too much about the missile damage happening on you. At this moment, it's a little bit where I make a mistake. I keep running, trying to catch up to them because my units are faster, and I should have just consolidated an attack on their back, because with the Wog they're going to be a little bit more immune, you know. And this is where I spot, oh, those dogs need help. I thought they could deal with the spiders enough so that they could turn around and flee from the spear unit, and that didn't happen. So that was a misread on my part. That leads to a ton of issues on this sort of pursuing. I would say let them pursue, yes. Just be careful with this part, because I'm attacking those spears and I didn't realize that they were orc boy spears. Actually, notice how I'm only now noticing, oh, those are the orc boy spears. That's why they're holding. That's why they didn't rout, you know? Khazrak also didn't obey, going against the Gnobler. Not the Gnobler, but that Lord. Everyone else is just pursuing and doing just fine. I guess the Minotaurs could have done a little bit better. And now I'm just going and forcing that army losses, but because he has one on the flank, it's not going to trigger properly. Okay? And that's why this is dangerous. That's the point that I wanted to make. It's dangerous going for army losses unless you're sure that the enemy can break. I see already some units breaking, and I think, oh, I can make them break already. And then suddenly there's one unit of mine suffering. I see the enemy lord, and I'm like, I should have cast it on the lord to reduce the leadership. But now the Bestigars are going to get the lord, and that should be fine. He still has time for one more walk. But overall, there's a lot of concentration here. Just make sure that you keep your chariots moving, which I didn't, and your Minotaurs moving, which I didn't again. So that's an advice for me in the future, and advice for you, of course. Okay? Because this battle could have been over way faster if I hadn't pursued here. I should have let them reform and then charge a second time, and they would die. You know, that would be the best idea. And I have 5 units of archers that would melt anything trying to reinforce, you know. But that's after the fact stuff. After the fact stuff, it's always easier to know. If you replay battles, you know how to do those things. Now, I want to prepare for the enemy coming in, because it's a couple of big ones, and I don't know if I can route them before. So I want to go group 4. Let's go over here. Just group 4 could do it. But I'm trying still to see if I can eliminate enough of these guys. Then the army losses is going to trigger. And I believe it has triggered now. Good. But yeah, not always the best case scenario. And it's good that I did this example so that you're a little bit more aware of an issue that can happen. So an issue that can happen is that you go and try to go for army losses, and you fail at that, leaving your troops scattered all over the battle map. Okay? So be careful not to do this. Now, I didn't lose any unit. That's fine. But I could have lost some units. So let's army replenish, as always. And we're at turn 10 already. At the 13th, we're going to get that melee attack, charge bonus, and missile strength. This affects nearly all my army, so that's great. And we can also already recruit escort chariots and harpies, and other units as well, because we've developed a little bit more. So turn 10, having access to these units is quite good for you. Upgrading to gores instead of ungores is really good. I would say not to get any further buildings and just wait for more gold to upgrade to tier 3, because you don't need too many buildings there to do what it's necessary. Some magical reserves with the casters is kind of easy. Just get more possibilities, or improve the ones that you have in order, you know, the spells that you have, in order to get a little bit better oomph from those spells. I prefer a little bit, I can see variety, so that's why I focus on getting every single spell. Okay? Now, we know that there's some Empire forces here, and the importance of scouting cannot be understated. So let's get scouting done. There's no army there. Okay, let's move a little bit more. And I don't see the Empire army. I don't see it. So I'm thinking it has gone back, which means that I'll likely be able to just go and replenish a little bit, or even attack that place. Let's just, in case, always in case. Remember that position where you ambushed the first army? That's where we're gonna put him, because this sounds like he's in ambush, waiting for me. So I might as well just do this. Let's disband and go over here. So like I said, you're gonna fight a lot of battles, and Karfraz is going to come after you every 3 to 4 turns. And what do you know? He was hiding. So yeah, let's not fight this ambush. This is important for you guys. Focus on ambushing before you push. Focus on ambushing. Control ambushes allow you to control the map so that you don't have a lot of issues when you're conquering. Okay? Because other than that, if I had attacked the Black Pit, I would be suffer casualties, and then suddenly I wouldn't be able to defend. Okay? Let's get Hound Master. So for more damage for my units, for my hounds, for harpies later on, for the chariots, if not mistaken, also gives them, or the Razorgo herds. I mean, I could get some caps for that. I still am pretty fine going for another lord. Okay? But for now, I'm feeling fine. I don't need the caps right now. And I'm thinking I can go capture the Black Pit. You've seen the sieges, so I can auto-resolve this one just to showcase it to you, okay? You've seen the sieges, not the cheeses. The sieges, so it would work exactly the same way, you know? Let me just see if I can change it up with this. No. Sometimes it does alter the damage. So let's go over here. It's a small price to pay. It's okay. And let's raise in advance, and we're gonna do the ritual. Or should I loot and raise, actually? Loot and raise sounds nice. I'm gonna have a lot more gold. So let's perform the ritual. That's 30, so that's more than enough to get another army. So that army capacity is really important, okay? With that army capacity, let's get another lord. And over here, I recommend that it is a great Bray Shaman. The reason for that is that you don't need a caster. With that, you don't need a caster, and if you have any dilemma with any hero, you can use that hero, which typically isn't a caster. And typically it goes for War, Gore, or Doombull, so yeah. Not Doombull, the other one. Okay, this one has better stuff for Minotaur, so I'm gonna use that one, and that's it. That's the only choice. I'm gonna get some Gore herds or some harpies here. I'm thinking the harpies because they will be a part of the army that I want for Khazrak. Okay, so I'm gonna change it up, and it's gonna go for the harpies, and then I'm gonna move Khazrak there and get some better units for him. Okay. Of course, remember that these losses wouldn't happen because I would have fought. Let's get Feral Fervor for Strider. I have to play a little bit slower. Apologies, guys, that I'm not even showing properly there. But we're going to go for Strider. If you're going on your campaign, you can watch what it is. And you're going to go for Tier 3. And that's Tier 3 at turn 11. We have a second army. And that's the end of this, where I wanted to show you. This is a slight variation, okay? What happened here is that I went for the orcs instead of finishing off Middenland. But what happens when you finish off Middenland and you don't have to fight the orcs? What happens when you rush to Altdorf? You can do so even with this playthrough. What I would do is just gather my secondary army and move both of them towards the Altdorf, in order to conquer it and get the second one there. Let's get a couple of Razorgo herds. Yeah. And I can get those Centigores over here on this guy. There we go. So here's a couple of variations. This is turn 17 and I have already conquered Altdorf, having destroyed Middenland. And you can do this just with the strategies that I've been showing you. Just slowly go in and ambush, check for spots where you have the 100% ambush, wait for them to sally out, because the Karl Franz just goes endlessly, sending armies against you, sending armies against you. He has a 20 stack, he sends it against you. And all you need to do is ambush. You ambush that stack, and then once you ambush, you just focus on sieging the place, and it should be fairly easy. Even if it has a lot of troops, you can just send out a 40 army, and it will do it. Another situation that place that would be good for a Hearthstone is also in Marienburg, because of the replenishment rate, but I prefer the one on Altdorf because it has a specific, unique one. And as you can see, this is the sort of secondary army that you can have in your places. I'm already actually going against the greenskins again in this case. But yeah, that's a variation. This is another variation where it's just before I'm going against Altdorf. So in this one, actually, the orcs are still alive, and we got the secondary army, and I actually spawned it next to Khazrak so that I could immediately keep conquering. I disadvise against that. That was one of my conclusions. I preferred the fact that I could get it in the Lorelorn Forest so that I could recruit better units, and it was much easier for Khazrak to improve. Over here, the benefits would be just fine. I would just ambush, okay? That army that leaves Altdorf will be ambushed, and then I can attack the army outside, likely get the garrison to come over, and suddenly it's two armies of mine against a garrison plus a small army, and that's a win. Okay, I hope this helps you out, guys. Let me just conclude the video with a few small conclusions. So, ambush style works really well for Khazrak. Don't be afraid of sending your front line in, especially after you've used some red line or research on them. Keep replenishing between battles. Wait on the ritual for that second army, and then plan the second Hearthstone to be in Altdorf. Okay? Hope this helps you out, guys. Oh, I'm tired of speaking. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next guide. Bye bye.